So you struggle, you put in your all, you're a parent, you sacrifice things for your kids, and one day, after all those sacrifices, your kid could look at you in the face and say, it weren't enough. And yeah, I think that's, it's a crazy situation when you think of it. So like the other day, I was speaking to someone, and we're just talking about like, parents and, why it appears, nowadays, people are having kids later, planning is later, people having less kids as well, and all of this kind of stuff. And then, we were just basically talking about how and why that's happening. And I think it's happening because, economic reasons, and also, actually people looking at their own childhoods and actually understanding how crazy of a job parenthood is, how much sacrifice, how much patience, and how easy it is to get it wrong, and how no matter what you do, there will always be something you could improve on, something you could have done better. And yeah, I think it's actually really it's hard. It's a hard job. It's a thankless job. I think when you get older and you kind of look back now at your parents, certain situations, depending on your background, if you come from, an average background or even a below average background, even more, when you get older, you have an appreciation for how difficult it is, how hard it is. People can say their parents may have had it easier, it's harder now, and that is the truth. When you think of it, why are people not having kids as much? It's, the money, the amount that they can times your salary by to get a mortgage, house prices are higher, inflation, the amount of money, you earn, the way things cost, how difficult it is to borrow money for a mortgage or whatever. And then also, the biggest killer is, childcare costs. You can have your kid in nursery 4-5 days a week, 3 days a week, and it could cost you the same or even more than a mortgage payment. There's also the loss of community. You used to see like more community, more, maybe aunties, uncles, church members, like family, friends and stuff growing up, where everybody kind of lived within the same area, and you could be fine, you could be cool. And there was always other kids to play with. There was always maybe, somebody that, a childminder, or people that you could kind of, families, uncles, aunties, whatever, cousins, that you all lived in the area, or even just your community. There was a community spirit where, family, friends were about, and you could kind of, parents could get a break of some sort, or there was just even more socializing, like with the kids. So you might meet your friends, you and your friends are going to meet up with the kids. You might just live 5-10 minutes away from each other, and that was the norm. It kind of took the burden away. So yes, you're looking after your kids, but you're getting to catch up with your friends and stuff. Maybe with £30, you can go shopping. You can come back with a good amount of shopping. Like the cost of living was better. What you needed to buy a house was better. And when you look at it now, it's not the same. It's prices have gone up. It's harder. That's also kind of forced the community to kind of die as well. You see situations now where, because of money now, because of, the cost of living, the cost to buy a property, the cost to raise a family, people are now having to move further out. So you could have been born in London. The best financial choice might be, you might have to move further out of London. But then with that, you also then lose, the network, the family support network. It becomes harder. So if you live, 50 minutes away, an hour away now from London by car, you're not going to meet up with your friends as frequently than if maybe, or your family friends as frequently if they lived 5 or 10 minutes away from you. You're not going to see people as much, and you might be all fragmented. The person I was talking to the other day, we were talking about this, where we're saying that now everyone's dispersed in different places. So even within a family, siblings move out now. One might have one place here, one might have another place that's further out. So even like the family support network is not as much. And then because everyone has to work, everyone has to run up and down and do all of that to provide money to bring things in, it's not the same. And I think, now there isn't as much of a village, or the village is not as easy as it once was, I think. Life is not a monolith. So, of course, that might not be everyone's situation, but I think that was something we were seeing. Parents as well, like cutting your parents some slack and actually realizing how hard it is. When you kind of now really think about it as well, like especially if you come from a family where first generation from your family lineage that's born in the country, maybe your parents immigrated from somewhere else, got jobs and done what they needed to do, you can see how hard it would have been back then. You could have seen where there might have been certain racism, there might have been certain prejudices, there might have been a crazy amount of things that's happened. And you kind of think to yourself, like, imagine doing that, being 30, you have 3 kids and you've left your friends and family from another place, you've come here to a different land and you're trying to make a living for yourself and you're trying to navigate that all while being parents, where your network, maybe your mum and dad are back home, siblings are back home, and you're trying to make it work. And I think when it takes you getting older, moving out, living by yourself, and actually navigating being an adult, even before having kids, before you can actually go, you know what, you might need to cut your parents some slack. When you speak to people about having kids and they're like, I'm okay for myself, but I'm not okay even just to add another mouth to feed with all the costs and everything, it's not making sense. Or the lifestyle you want to live, it will take a hit. So go on holiday, 3, 4, 5 times a year, if you can do that. You won't be able to do that, once you have kids and, the reduction in earnings and stuff. So, I remember years and years ago where I was speaking to somebody that was, quite older than me, and they were just telling me about like kids and stuff, and they were just breaking down the whole, the sacrifice and stuff, and how, grueling it is. And I remember she was always saying like the first 5 to 6 years are the worst because it's the reduction in your ability to work, increasing costs, and in your reduction in earnings as well. So she was saying like, if both of you come together, you're paying bills and you're okay, you're paying half, or, you split it up, however you want to split it up, maybe 60-40, wherever it is, you're paying your bills as a unit. And then it gets to a point where now you have an increase in costs, because now it can happen in 2 ways. Either one of you goes to work, goes back to work. You have to deal with the whole shock to the system of a new baby. So she was saying like how the sleep deprivation is unreal. The baby will cry every 3 hours if you're lucky. You have your paternity leave or whatever, your maternity leave. Then that year you're out of work, so then you have your partner, the one that is working, has to pay more. You're tired. You're more likely to be grouchy. You're more likely to argue, and it becomes very real. Then she was saying like, so then it now becomes a situation where you've gone from a 2-income household to 1 income, and then you then have a choice to make where it's either you, after maternity, go back to work, but then now if you go back to work, there's an increased childcare cost, and the childcare cost is actually high. It could be the same as your mortgage, it could be more. Childcare is really expensive. So she was saying like how you have that going on, then you have like the shock of trying to be responsible for a human life. Children, babies it's challenging, it's grueling, it takes a lot out of you, and it's relentless. You don't know what each day holds. And I remember her just saying like it's not a decision to be taken lightly, to have kids, to bring them into the world, and you at most of the time is only what you have extra in your cup that you can give on that day, because there's times where you need a rest, you need a break. And she was talking about how having a village, having people around you really helped her situation. But she was saying like, if you don't have a village, if you don't have people to really tell you what it's like before you get into it, it could be a complete shock. It could be one of the most challenging things in your life, that there's no off switch. It's for the rest of your life. You don't just one day stop being a parent. You don't just one day just say, okay, I'm going to refund the child now. Just put the child. That's it. That's it. There is no resignation from that job. That is a lifelong job. You can't escape it. That's your thing. So yeah, I remember when and I was quite young at the time when this person was saying this to me, and I remember just being like, oh, you never really hear that. You never really hear people go into details on the challenges and actually really say what the real is. Like, you usually get like two types of people. You get the people that will just make a really mad statement and say, oh my God, never do it, never do it. But then they never break it down. And yeah, I respected her for doing that, because it was an interesting insight at the time. The way life is, you look at the challenges of life. You do have to cut your parents some slack, provided, they've done what they're supposed to do as a parent and stuff. I think you do have to cut them some slack. It's only now when you're older, you kind of realize, okay, how difficult it was, what it was. Because the thing is, as a kid, as being a child, you don't see those things. Your prefrontal cortex or whatever, the part of your brain that looks at long-term thinking and all of that kind of stuff, that doesn't develop until later on in life. So as a child, you don't really have the thinking, your brain is not developed to even understand things the way a grown adult will, to actually look at something for what it is. All you know is what you want. And children are demanding. Children they want things because it is what they want. You can see growing up, you can be like, oh, Dad, I want shoes, I want this, I want to look cool, I want to look cool in front of my friends in school, I want to do this. Like, they will ask, kids are like that, they're inquisitive, they will just ask, they'll want everything that looks cool to them. But at that time, you don't understand what that takes, and you don't understand the real things. And this is where you see situations where people can really complain and talk a lot about parents and all of this kind of stuff, but then it's like, it's only when they now grow up and have their own that a lot of the time people come back and now go, you know what, Mom, Dad, I understand now. I understand why certain things, you were annoyed certain days. I can understand that because now I've lived it. Now I understand the continuous juggling act that this is, the challenge that this is, that I don't think talk about enough. I don't think people talk about it enough. I was speaking to somebody else the other day as well. Why you leaving it a bit later to have children? And they were saying, because I've seen people close to me have kids. I've seen the situations now, and I've seen that the challenges, that the toll it's taken. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't know if I want to do that. And I think that is a very real thing, because I think what's happened now as well with social media and stuff, there's more of a consumer mindset, there's more of a lifestyle mindset, there's more of I want to go to this nice place and spend money on a nice meal. I want to go on holiday to this nice place I saw on TikTok. I want to enjoy life. I want to buy a designer bag. I want to do this kind of stuff. And all of this is money. It's all expenditure. And I think more and more people are realizing that now, with the spirit of consumerism increased, it's going to take, if you are now going to have big expenditure, having kids, starting a family, all those things that you're going to have to give them up. And I think a lot of people now are kind of realizing no. And then on top of that as well, we have more information today as well. So people are kind of realizing how difficult it is, how difficult human beings are, how taxing it is, because a lot of people now, everyone's taking notes on how things were, where things could have gone better, and how difficult it is. And everyone kind of says these things on social media or in passing, but the reality is that it's way easier said than done. The cost of living is higher, and people are, having to really say, can I do that? Even if you are going to have kids, it might be one, it might be two, it might be none. We are looking more at our upbringings. We are looking more at, where things could have gone better. We've kind of made it as well, this super expectation where I'm going to be, or you want to be the best parent there is, the best person there is. You always try, you always want to be, you can be good, but I don't think anyone is ever going to get it 100%. Like, as in, there's nothing you've done that was not, that someone can't grow up and say something about, because humans are unpredictable. You can't predict where human beings will go. It ties in closely to why, certain parents are very demanding of their children's lives, of demanding of what you will be, what you will do, the things you will pursue, because of the sacrifice of the unseen things, the things that you've had to sacrifice that maybe your children don't know. And then maybe you've now resigned yourself to a point where it's like, all these sacrifices, I at least have to get an emotional return of investment. I at least have to feel that it was worth it the way I saw it being worth it. So this is where you can see situations where someone will say, I want you to be a lawyer, I want you to be a doctor, I want you to be an engineer. And then the person ends up pursuing a career in, I don't know, wants to be a painter, maybe wants to be a chef, or whatever thing that they're interested in. And then you always see this, like sometimes you see this tussle where you're just like, oh my gosh, like, no, you have to do this. And it's because of the sacrifice and investment, the years of investment. Like, I don't think people understand. Like, when you think of it, it's putting years of investment into somebody, raising them, sacrificing, teaching, educating, taking your time, like a huge investment of time and energy. And then that person could grow up, and then they could, depending on your expectations, they can just deviate completely. They can go to something completely like, what is this? And you could look at that and go, that's not where you would have saw it going. Or even if when they're explaining what they want to do with their life, it might not be, it might be something you like. Sometimes it might be something you might not even know if that makes sense, if that's really, productive, until, sometimes, people surprise you. Sometimes they might not. And yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things. I think that's a big reason as well, because I think a lot of us now are kind of realizing, yeah, it's not easy. There is a sacrifice that goes into it. And if you really understand how much of a sacrifice it is, how much has to go into it, and how irreversible it is, it's not a light choice, Like, you're seeing people that, are going therapy and all of that kind of stuff, and doing the work, and then realizing, they want to do the work even before they have kids, so they don't pass on trauma, and they actually are able to navigate properly. You have also the expectation of parents going up. So I've always said it. Yeah, I think it does take a village to raise a child, because I think in this economy, in this day and age, especially with so much things having to be done, I think it's impossible for two parents to go out, work, earn money, take care of the house, take care of the kids, somehow find time to be emotionally stable for themselves, live some sort of life outside of that, see friends, see family, have space for all of that, and chase their dreams and all of that. It's very difficult to expect just two people to do that with multiple children. So you're outnumbered in the house in the first place. So if, let's say, a couple has 3 kids, you're already outnumbered in the house. If 2 people are working full time, it's not possible. Even if it is, what kind of life are you living? You see situations where people can, someone can come from a good home. They've put so much effort into their child, and the child could just leave the house, go to school, go to sixth form, just go out into the world, and then completely deviate from what's been at home, to the point where now what they've done has actually shamed the family and shamed their upbringing. And then you kind of look like, what was the point? What was the reason? Human beings are unpredictable, are fickle, are, malleable in ways that you can't foresee, which is why I was talking about the village, because I remember growing up in a time where your mum and dad might know a lot of people in the area, or you just had a local community where everyone kind of knew everyone. So from a safety standpoint, if there was something crazy going on in the area, or there was just, I don't know, whatever was going on, someone could say, oh, you need to get home, something has happened, or there's a traffic incident over there, or, even just advice from different people that, older people in the area, in the community. We don't have that. And even from a standpoint of getting rest as well for parents. So having, family friends that are close in proximity, so you can get a break and recharge as a parent. I think there's an absence of that. There's also less community, less support network. And I think that, with the higher costs, with the higher expectations of parenthood, with, being more busy as well, having to do more, wanting to get more out of life, and, maybe people chasing their goals as more, more having to achieve higher heights to get a certain, level of lifestyle as well. I think all of that is the reason people are having kids less or not at all, or, having them, way later, because it's just, the economic, the emotional, and, the mental expectations now are higher, and they're also harder to achieve in some cases as well. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.